Hi, this is Brian McCann, the Overworked IT Guy, Whiskey 2 Bravo Juliet Mike. And today I'm going to be giving you a rundown of Pi-Star and the MMDVM Raspberry Pi Hat. I've been reintroducing myself to ham radio, and I know DMR is taking off. So I decided to see what this whole DMR thing is about. So I ordered an MMDVM kit, case, hat, and a few connectors, and went and got myself a Raspberry Pi 0W, which I've used in the past, but I'm going to use it for this kit as well, as it's what it's recommended for, and assemble the whole thing. You're going to see all of it as I sort of go through it. I did not cheat and do anything ahead of time, except a few little pieces, which I'm going to show you here in a second. So let's dig in and let's get started. So this is going to be some close-up video. Hopefully this comes through. Play with this for the first time. This is a Raspberry Pi 0W. As you've probably seen in other videos, there's two form factors for a Raspberry Pi, actually three main ones. There's the A form factor, the B form factor, and the 0 form factor, which is this guy here. The Raspberry Pi 0W, very small, wireless interfaces only to get on the network, has two USB ports, one for power, one for USB on the go adapter. We have a mini HDMI port here, and the traditional Raspberry Pi GPIO pinout. This is the same across all Raspberry Pi devices, so no matter what format you get, this header on the modern Raspberry Pis is going to be the same. The older ones had a slightly different pinout than the new ones, but the new ones are pretty consistent. Additionally on here, most importantly where my finger is blocking, is the micro SD slot. We're going to be using that. And my other finger is blocking the camera slot, which we're not going to be using with this project, but you can plug a camera into this as well. So this is the Raspberry Pi 0W. In 3, 2, 1. Also of note, the Raspberry Pi 0W comes with no headers on here. I started by soldering these headers on, which comes with the hat, which I'm going to show you in a second. There's also another option for the Raspberry Pi 0W, which comes with a full header, pre-assembled. It's usually a couple of dollars more. Here's the back of it. So all you really have to do is solder it onto the through holes, and that's it. And just for comparison's sake, here's another Raspberry Pi 0. Same board, same part number, same functionality. The difference is this one comes with the full header assembled for you, so you don't have to do the soldering. Other than that, the board is exactly the same. Now the other parts, which I've ordered off eBay, and I'll post links in the comment section down below. This is the MMDVM Hat. I got mine from eBay. There's a bunch of Chinese manufacturers that make this. It's based on, as the logo says on the back, open source hardware. It's an open source project that makes this little hat. Comes with, on the top here, a little port for our antenna, display to show the status on it. Down in this corner here, we've got a reset button. There's some LEDs here on this side. We're going to see what all this stuff does once we power it up. Also on the back, the reason they give you those limited number of headers to use, so here's the Pi 0, the top of it, and here's this hat. You'll notice if I put the hat down, there's 3 pins that they don't cut short for the hat. Now if you use a regular Raspberry Pi, that would touch the pins that would be in the middle here. So instead of cutting these pins short, I just used their headers. So the way this works is all Raspberry Pi hats just sort of slide on there, and there, boom, you're done. It's connected, it's installed. It's that easy. Also in the kit, I got a custom case. Has a nice little Wi-Fi symbol, cutouts for the ports. On the top, we've got our display hole here, antenna slot. This looks like a slot for the lights, and base plate to scroll the parts into. It's got a cutout for the memory card on one side and camera on the other. Also, when you're using a Raspberry Pi 0, Because of the HDMI port being in small form factor and the no full-size USB port, you're going to need a couple of accessories when you build this. So this is a mini HDMI to full-size HDMI jack. I keep a couple of these around because I do enough Raspberry Pi projects, it's worth it. You can get these from any hobby shop online. I'll post some links where I get most of my Raspberry Pi stuff in the comments. And also a USB on-the-go adapter. This one is specifically an in-one to one. I got this one from Micro Center. Again, I'll post links where you can get these over the internet. I get these a lot from Micro Center or Adafruit. And the big deal is this lets you plug in a standard USB device. So in this case, most of my projects, just to keep it easy, I just have a little wireless USB adapter. So we're just going to plug that guy in there. And that's pretty much it. So for assembly, you see I've got 4 risers here. And they give me a little bag of hardware. In this bag, I've got 2 small screws, 2 tall screws, and 2 little spacers. Looks like these spacers are designed to go right here. Let's move this out of the way. Basically to stabilize the hat or stabilize the front. Doesn't really say. However, I'm going to assume because the back is stabilized by the port, you can sort of see it's already going uphill, that those spacers are supposed to go on the front. So that's where I'm going to put them. Make this nice and easy. So effectively, this goes in here like this. Spacers go on this side, and then the short screws I'll put in on the back side. But because you can't really, screw through things, you're gonna have to take the hat off here, which is just a simple pull off, and then screw this down. Okay, got my screwdrivers. This is a small form factor screw. It's a number 1 or number 0 Phillips head screw. So we just take these, tighten that one down there. Grab another one for the other side. And then this is going to be a little tricky here. I'm going to try to install the hat. And then try to show this on the video as close as I can here while I do it. It's going to be a little difficult. I'm going to drop the screw through and put the spacer in at the same time. Just takes a little bit of a finesse. Might need to use a pair of needle nose pliers or something to get these in there. Or just very carefully angle the screw without dropping anything. I think I've got it pretty close here. Just got to push that back up. Popped out the bottom of the spacer, but I don't want to lose it. There we go. Ah, darn it. There we go. You can see there now as I just tighten that down. Let's see how low it'll bottom out at. Perfect. So it does close it up nice and tight, but if I close it all the way, it's going to make it really difficult to get the other side in there, so let's just leave it started. The spacer's around here somewhere. It's a white spacer on a white desk. Kind of hard to find. Okay, let's start the other one. Get that in there. Screw that down. Okay. Cover slides right over it. Doesn't look like it screws down at all. Sort of pops through, I guess. Doesn't seem like it's a great fit. Oh, I see what's happening here. So on this case, there's this little notch here. And on this, we've got these tiny little cutouts on the edges. those lock in, and that's how the case holds shut. That's kind of interesting. I thought I was grinding on a circuit board. It kind of sounded like that, but I guess not. As we push through here, our ports start to come through and line up. And last but not least, the kit does come with a small little, looks like cheap-ish Wi-Fi antenna. I mean, sort of what you'd expect to find coming out of China. And I guess this is the other piece that just sort of holds the cover down nice and tight. And that's it. This is our, hopefully now functioning, MMDVM. That's going to be a challenge. So looking in that hole, you really can't see it. That micro SD slot isn't exactly perfectly aligned. So what I've already done is I've downloaded the image because I don't have screen recording software on that computer. The Pi-Star image, I'll post a link down below, onto a micro SD card. That micro SD card is supposed to go in here. Let's see if it actually will. Just barely. It just fits in there, sticks out. Only a tiny little bit, not too bad. But it's got the protection of the edges here. It definitely sticks in from the edges, so I think that's okay. And we've got our HDMI, micro USB. Those will just pass through here. Micro USB, mini HDMI. Lastly, you need to power this thing. So for powering a Raspberry Pi, I tend to go for the official Raspberry Pi power supplies as indicated by the Raspberry Pi logo on it. They do make different manufacturers throughout the years and change manufacturers. This one is Stonetronics. But it is a 5 volt, 2.5 amp micro USB power supply. As long as it's 2.5 amp, you should be okay. There are some cheaper ones out there that aren't necessarily 2.5 amp. The Raspberry Pi itself runs very little amperage through it. It's basically just the hats that as you add onto it that requires additional power. I just make sure I buy the 2.5 amp model, which is the highest the board can handle and pass through. This way, no matter what I do with the board, it works fine. And this plugs into the other unused USB port on the back. Sorry about the noise. This thing is rolling around on my desk pretty bad. So let's just real quick here undo our little power cord. Okay. So before I plug this in, I'm going to move the camera around, see if I can capture the monitor, so you can see what happens as I watch this thing boot up. Okay, so hopefully this comes out right on video. We're going to find out. This is my first time trying this. I've got my Raspberry Pi Zero, just to show you guys how it's hooked up. On the back, I've got my 3 cables, power, my wireless receiver for the keyboard, my video, which is plugged into this monitor. And we're going to hit the power button on my power strip. I've got some lights going blinky blinky here on the top of it. Looks like the hat booted up, or is booting. The hat's definitely doing something. But I don't see anything popping up on the monitor. Let's check my input on the monitor. I've got it going through a DVI adapter. Maybe that's what's taking a while here. My monitor maybe didn't. There we go. So it's booting the OS, which is just what we want to see. Looks like it's doing the initial startup. That red thing in the bottom corner, that's not a fail, by the way. It's working. Now it said failed to configure Bluetooth, which is expected since there's no Bluetooth on this board. So failing to start a couple of services, probably because this is a custom image that is not quite there yet. Although it does say it failed to start Pi-Star remote service. I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe because it's not on the network yet. That might be my guess. I didn't read the instruction on how to do this. I just downloaded the image. And then I'll read the directions because that's what you do. You never read the directions first. Generating some SSH keys. Started SSH. Okay, and now we're up and running. Lights on the top, occasionally blinking back and forth, but it looks like they're pretty solid. It looks like red on your screen. It really is green. I'm not sure. It's probably just the reflection here. Oh, no, wait, there is a red LED blinking on the inside. It's just kind of hard to see through this cutout. The way the cutout is, if you tilt it one way, you can see one set of LEDs. If you have to tilt it the other way to see the first row. Cutout could probably be a little bigger. I might take my Dremel to that, make that a little wider. It looks like the LEDs are in two different stacks here. So let's, I guess, dive into the next step of setting this up. So, I'm a little stuck, but I think we're going to make some progress here. I poked around on the internet, and most of the videos I found were for full Raspberry Pis, not the Raspberry Pi Zero W or setting up on a wireless network. I scratched my head a little bit. Got some details, but then I figured, let's just open the Wi-Fi scanner on my phone and see what it says. And in fact, I have a wireless network, hopefully it focuses on that, Pi-Star setup. So if I tap on that, it's asking for a password. I'm going to assume it's the default password, which is Raspberry, R-A-S-P-B-E-R-R-Y. And if I connect to that, looks like it may have given me my connection to the Raspberry Pi. Maybe that's what the display is supposed to be showing me that might not be configured yet. But we'll see here. What happens when I open up a web browser? Okay, so using your cell phone to connect to it, not a good idea. What I learned is no matter what, it's trying to resolve DNS through default gateway or something, and it just didn't like it. So what you're supposed to be able to do is go to pi-star.local in a web browser once you're connected to the hotspot, and it just didn't work. So I broke out a laptop, joined the Wi-Fi network, and it seemed to connect absolutely fine. Basically, you know, asked for the login, which was Raspberry, just like I connected to it before. And now it seems okay. I get to a web GUI, and I will try to show you guys that in one moment. That basically just says no mode defined. This is a little bit challenging because I don't have screen recording software on here, but bear with me one moment and I'll see what I can do. Okay, hopefully this works and you guys can read the screen. So I have my laptop up here connected to Pi-Star-local, and it pulls up this configuration interface. I clicked on the configuration tab to get to here, and if I scroll down this page, I've got a wireless configuration setting. Finally, this is what I'm looking for. So click on configure Wi-Fi. Looks like it's some type of embedded JSON page. It's just not quite loading everything as well as I would hope, and it looks like it's actually not even really working. This is Microsoft Edge. Oh, okay, it's just really sluggish. So configure Wi-Fi did work. Let's try clicking scan for networks. It's definitely some sort of embedded API or embedded JSON page. And rolling through a Raspberry Pi W, if there's one thing I've learned on the Raspberry Pi Ws, they are not exactly fast devices. That's one benefit is if you do use a full-size Raspberry Pi, like a Raspberry Pi 3B+, the interface is, the whole thing is much faster. Use a little bit more power, but it's a bigger form factor and wouldn't fit in that case. So I've got my wireless networks here. It's listing all of them out. I've got the one with the access point that's right above my head here. I'm going to put in my password. And save and connect. Wi-Fi settings successfully updated. So hopefully this means, yep, network 0, so it's got it. And if I go to Wi-Fi info, Not sure if I'm still going to be connected or not. I would assume that once it's on a wireless network, the hotspot dies. It says here, interface name WLAN 0, interface is down. Let's go reset Wi-Fi adapter. Okay, so I waited a minute or two, and the wireless interface came up. As you can see here, interface is up. I've got my IP address, 192.168.0.149. And it looks like the access point does still stay up, even though it is connected to Wi-Fi, so that's kind of nice. So even if you have a problem after the fact and need to get in and reset stuff, you can. So that's great. So I'm going to move the camera around here and get back to the main view. So be right back. So sorry for the jump in video. I did want to add one little bit in here, which was the final configuration to make sure this thing is actually working for you, the hat's working properly. After that configuration updated, and we're still on that April 29th release, one thing you do want to start with is your general configuration. I filled in my call sign, my longitude, latitude. I left radio frequency alone for a moment, left my DMR ID alone for a moment, which I'm going to fill that in. The important part here, which takes a little bit of research, so I'm going to give you the cheat code and the answer, is the radio/modem type. For the link down bottom, the item I bought on eBay, what you're going to want to pick is STM32-DVM. That's the model of that Raspberry Pi hat. That's really what it is. And when you click apply, it's going to reboot a couple of the services, not the whole Pi, so give it about a minute or so. Then you're going to get this top part that appears, the MMDVM host configuration. Once this pops up, you're going to want to pick OLED for the MMDVM display type, leave the port and the next station layout alone, click apply, and mine took about 30 seconds or so. In Chrome you can see the little spinny thing moving along here. And once that's done, let me see if I can get this up on the camera for you. That's going to happen. You're going to see the MMDVM logo scrolling around the screen. The display should light up and give you a pretty little picture. You've also noticed, for that matter, that I've unplugged the USB on the go dongle because I ended up not using that. Don't need it. And didn't really need the HDMI port other than just to see that it was working and booted up. So let's just yank that off and get rid of that little guy. This little guy? Don't worry about this little guy. Hashtag Super Troopers. Okay, so now that we've got everything set up here in the GUI, OLED is up and running. I showed you guys the picture. Didn't change anything up here. We're still using the MMDVM controller software. I'm in simplex mode. Again, the only changes I made started with general configuration, the radio/modem type STM32-DVM on the Raspberry Pi Hat GPIO interface. Filled in some details here just for my name and my info. Picked my time zone, picked my language. Check the box for DMR. So, rewinding a second, after you fill in one section and one section only, click Apply Changes. Each of these blobs is controlled by one Apply Changes button. If you make changes, say up here in the general configuration area, but click the Apply Changes button down in, for example, DMR configuration, it ain't gonna work. So you want to make changes in one box at a time. So update general config. Most important part again is this radio modem type. Click Apply Changes, give it about 30 seconds or so. It will refresh on its own. And then you get the MMDVM host configuration. You want to change your display type to OLED. Click Apply, wait about a minute, and you're good to go. So I would then at this point, maybe I'll do a video, I'm not entirely sure on how I configured this. I might just show you a summary video at the end as I'm learning and going through so you don't suffer my trials and tribulations and struggles. But stay tuned for my channel for that. If you like this video, don't forget, give it the old like, thumbs up, and don't forget to click subscribe to follow more updates from me. So this is Brian, the Overworked IT Guy, Whiskey 2 Bravo Juliet Mike for Pi Star. 73s and good DXing. Enjoy.